This bill is about protecting the constitutional right to counsel for our young people. Mr. Speaker, my hometown of Federal Way is an amazing place to live. It's full of diversity, and that's highlighted by the many different types of restaurants and small businesses. However, a major blemish on our city is the fact that we have the second highest number of referrals to the juvenile justice system in the county, and some of the highest in the state. And it's one of the many reasons I actually went into education and youth advocacy work. Today, Mr. Speaker, I am bringing forth legislation that will protect all youth across the state of Washington, no matter your zip code. Mr. Speaker, we know that Black youth, Indigenous youth, and youth of color are disproportionately stopped, arrested, and questioned by the police. In many instances, this has led to false confessions, prosecutions, and incarceration in the juvenile legal system. In fact, youth of color statewide represent only about 28% of the general population, but nearly 50% of youth in county detention. We also know that youth of color experience trauma associated with the disproportionate and sometimes overly aggressive policing in our communities. It leaves them often incredibly scared, disempowered, and vulnerable when they interact with officers. I saw this in education as a high school, college, and career counselor in interactions with school resource officers at times. Miranda rights can also be confusing and applied with little consideration to this trauma and social emotional reality. I believe our youth deserve an opportunity to consult with an attorney with legal expertise in juvenile law before they make what could be a life-altering decision with long-term consequences. This bill accomplishes that goal, Mr. Speaker. It also contains provisions to protect others and not impede or delay the ability for our police or school resource officers from gathering needed information. We work closely with youth development organizations on this bill, heard directly from brilliant youth leaders from across the state, and they're asking for a change in this legislation. I was also glad to work directly with the gentleman from the 8th District who served as a school resource officer and comb through the finite details of this bill. I believe we're united in a common purpose to save the lives and futures of many of our youth and to begin the process of dismantling an insidious school to prison pipeline. Lives like My Chance Dunlap Gittens, a promising young student athlete who was gunned down by police in a sting operation that went wrong in 2017. Neither him nor his friend who he was with that day was actually involved in the crime that deputies were investigating. From my understanding, he wanted to grow up to be a lawyer and to help others to have an opportunity to live their lives. I was grateful to hear from his parents during committee. A version of this policy we are considering today passed with an ordinance at the county level in his honor. Mr. Speaker, by expanding this legislation statewide, we can help solve a deep-rooted procedural justice issue that leads to the incarceration of Black and brown bodies from a young age, a self-perpetuating system of harm that I believe must stop. You know, when we talk about system reforms, it may just seem like words on paper to some, but to others, it means something entirely different. To the parent who must bury their child or hug them before leaving a juvenile detention facility, or to the little brother and sister who is forced to watch their older sibling being hauled away in handcuffs. As we sit through these countless Zoom meetings and phone calls, I have to sometimes remind myself that we have the ability to pass not just transactional, but transformational policy. And we're here to advance justice and to change lives, which is the very essence of this bill, Mr. Speaker, because it will change lives. It will protect rights. So I ask that we vote yes, Mr. Speaker, to make Washington State a leader in protecting the rights of all of our youth, but especially our Black, Indigenous, and youth of color.